I'm going to give a demonstration on how to take your outline 3D graphic and prepare it for assignment 2. So what I've started right from the point where I've taken a picture, and here's the picture of what I'm going to be using, and I'm going to download it onto the computer and prepare it. As you can tell, the outlining is pretty clear and even, and that's going to be important for the next step of the operation. So if you have filled in sections, what you're going to need to do is to retrace the outlines as you see here so that both the 3D elements and the outlines of the letters are clear. All right, so the first thing is to download. So I've emailed this image to myself that I've taken with a phone. It has all sorts of crap and not perfectly even lighting, but that's not going to matter too much. So I'm going to click on the image itself, and that allows me to download. If you look up here in the top left of the screen, you'll see a download button, and I hit download. And at that point, it downloads it into the download folder. So that's about all I need for this. I'm going to quit out of that. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open two screens, basically two Finder windows. So I need to be in the Finder section. So the way I do that is I just click on the desktop and I hit Command N twice, and I have two Finder windows. As I said, I like column view. It's a lot easier for me to understand column view, so I click on column view in both sections. And I'm going to go to Downloads in this folder, and you'll see that I have image 1, which is what it's downloaded as. And I'm going to go to my folder, which is under Documents, and JBordage, and Assignment 2. And I'm just going to take this image and I'm going to drag it from one to the other. I take these out. I don't need the Finder windows anymore, so I click the red buttons. And now I open up Adobe Illustrator. Once Adobe Illustrator opens up, and I'm going to make a new project, and I want the project to be the dimensions of US letter. If you can't find US letter, you can go to Print, and US letter is one of these options. Now notice over here it talks about the width and it talks about it in terms of points. Points are hard for me to understand. I prefer inches, and so I'm going to settle on inches, and notice now it says 8.5 by 11 inches, which is the size of a letter size piece of paper. I'm also going to label this Assignment 2. And the other thing I'm going to do is the orientation right now is vertical. Right, so the width is 8.5 and the height is 11. I'm going to change that orientation so the width is 11 and the height is 8.5. And then I hit Create. All right, so now you have this screen, this open screen. And what I am going to do now is I'm going to show you how to import the asset that you're going to be using. So, just a brief outline. This is the toolbar on this side. This is the properties, which is on the left side, and on the right side there's a properties panel, and that's important as well. Those are the two you want to make sure that are there. By default, that's probably what you will see. The other thing I want you to be aware of is the white area, the white pasteboard, is basically where you're going to see stuff being printed. Anything that's happening in the gray area is an area where it won't be printed. So the first thing we're going to do is import that visual asset that we've created. So I'm going to File, the File pull-down menu. I'm going to go down to Place. I'm going to find the object. Now if I'm somewhere else, it's actually gone right to the place, but let's say I'm someplace else. I go back to Documents, I go to my name, I go to Assignment 2, I find that image that I wanted, and I hit Place. Now it's stuck to my cursor, so I hit Enter, and now it's been placed. Now if you'll notice, it's way larger than the white pasteboard. It's also in the wrong orientation. Now the way I fix that is I back up. I go up to the first tool in the toolbar, which is a selection tool. Now what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to turn it around, and I'm going to have to resize it. So to turn it around, I actually take that black arrow tool and I move it out to one of the corners, like I'm going to move it here, and notice that the arrow changes, and it changes to something like as a double curved arrow. If I hold down the Shift key when it's a double curved arrow, I can turn it, and notice it turns to the right orientation. I'm going to take that and take the top left-hand corner of my piece and the top left-hand corner of the pasteboard and move them up. And notice that even though my image is larger than the pasteboard, there's a nice little dark line that shows you where the pasteboard is located. Now I want to change the size of this. I definitely want to scale it down. However, I don't want to change the dimensions. I don't want to squish it or anything. So I'm going to grab the corner, not toward the end where we had it before where I oriented, but to the corner where I have this another kind of double arrow that's straight this time. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and I'm going to click and drag until it's the right size. I'm going to now go use the zoom tool and I'm going to zoom back in. Now to zoom in, you click on the zoom tool and you zoom in. To zoom out, you hold on the Option key and you can zoom out. So that's two ways of orienting to the pasteboard. Now, if you'll notice, there's a lot of extraneous material that I don't need. So I'm going to actually go back to my selection tool. I'm going to open this up and reorient this. There, and now I can see right now this is the outline of the pasteboard, and so that's about where I want it to be. All right, so once I've done that and I've gotten it the right size, the next thing I want to do is I want to trace the image, and the way you do that is you wander over to the right side of the panel and you see the Properties Inspector and you hit Image Trace. And once you do that, you have a bunch of options. I want you to go to black and white logo and just hit OK. And it's now image traced the entire object. All right. So right now, there's not much happening, and you're going to want to get at individual elements. The only way to do that is to then go back to the Properties panel and hit Expand. And the last thing you're going to need to do to make sure that you can access separate parts is you're going to have to go and ungroup them. Right now they exist as a single group. You want to separate things out, so you go up to Object, pull down menu, and you hit Ungroup. Once it's ungrouped, notice now I click on individual areas and just hit the Delete key and make sure that those areas are deleted. Now there's lots of little stuff like this. As opposed to clicking on each one of them, you can click and then drag over the whole lot of them and then hit Delete. And do the same thing here. Delete. All right, so at this point I've selected pretty much everything. There's I guess a couple places here. Now I have a clean outline with no extraneous materials, and it's all live. Now I'm going to want to be able to use something called the Live Paint Bucket tool in order to fill in each one of these areas without having to do it by hand. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to prepare the document. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that black arrow tool, I'm going to select everything, I'm going to go back here to Object, and where it says Live Paint, I'm going to make this a Live Paint object, and I'm going to click on it. Once that happens, I select the Live Paint tool, and again that's on the left side in the tool panel, and it's right here. It's right underneath the Shape Builder tool, so I click and hold on it, and notice the second thing in line is my Live Paint Bucket tool. And I will know that I've succeeded if I drag the Live Paint Bucket tool over each section and I notice that each section is outlined in red. That will allow me to actually pick colors and fill those colors with the desired swatch that I'm going to pick. So at this point, your piece is ready. This is about all I want you to do for now. We will work more on it on Monday. So what I'd like you to do now is just save the document. So you go to File, and you go to Save or hit Command S. Name it Assignment 2 AI is good. Make sure that it's in your document folder under Assignment 2 and hit Save and hit OK. And now you're ready for Monday and coloring.